All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's a show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in 3 categories: education, storyteller and drama, and arts. For 5 years and with over 280 weekly episodes and 64 million plus downloads, the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast has provided advice and tips from international best-selling authors, world-class artists, contest judges and winners, and industry professionals. It is based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard to help the aspiring writer and artist no matter their age, race, ethnicity, or gender. It is dedicated to the future of storytelling and art by showing that it is never too late to start, and those who make it are those who never give up. We are all busy, but I'd be so grateful if you could take a moment and vote now. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in any or all 3 of the categories: education, storyteller, drama, or art. News on the flip side. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The News on the Flip Side, in the category of politics and news. News on the Flip Side is a much different news and political program, which is not deemed as opinion news. Listen as anchor host Joe Montaldo brings you just the facts from trusted sources, which will allow you, the people, to make up your own minds on the various stories being reported on. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate the News on the Flip Side in the category of news and politics. That's podcastawards.com. Please take a moment and vote now.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to my show, Into the Night with me, Sean Kelly. It's Sunday night edition. Hey, Mr. Wojo, good to see you. Thank you for, stopping in. I truly appreciate that, my brother. Steve has the group Boots on the Ground up there, Bigfoot Investigators. He was a guest a couple of weeks ago on my show, and last week he was a guest. And I just want to thank him and Richie B. Banter with Richie B. is his YouTube channel. So, welcome, Steve. So, welcome to my show. I'm on UPR and Talk Radio, 105.3 New Orleans, 107.7 Mississippi. And also want to thank, hey, Grandmaster UV, hello, sir. Joe Fox, good to see you. And 105.3 New Orleans, 107.7 Mississippi. And I have a great show tonight. Okay. I really, really do. 2 weeks ago, I had an open discussion about the tarot. And so I have known this gentleman, going on 6-7 years now. And he's the owner of this platform, UPR and Talk Radio. And he also did some readings. And thank you, Grandmaster UV. Patrick, comb your hair. That's my brother. God bless him. But he has I've known him for so long, and I'm telling you, and I didn't notice, but he does read some tarot cards. And tonight he's going to share his experiences when he does read and what get his opinion on the different clients um, that he reads for. Without further ado, I would like to welcome my guest tonight, my boss, Mr. Joe Montaldo. Hey,
Well,
good evening, Joe.
what's up? What's up, babe? How you doing? Life's
I'm
treating
doing
you
great.
okay?
Life is great, man. Life is
I
great.
know
Thank you.
Sean didn't tell you this, but he has a harem, guys. Yes, a harem. He's one for each night of the week. I don't know how he does that. I mean, Jesus, I would think death. Well, I guess if you got to go, that's the way to go, isn't it, guys?
Yeah, you know.
And I heard somebody mention Bigfoot. Look, I'm gonna tell you all a secret. I'm from Louisiana. And down there in the Sabine River Basin, there's lots and lots of big feets down there, right? So I was out there duck hunting one year, and with some friends of mine, I ran up to these guys, and they had some really good barbecue. I was like, "Damn, what is this? This is fabulous." He said, "Oh, it's just a little minor Bigfoot. He's about 7 foot tall when we shot him, but man, I'm telling you what, it was good eating. Just to tell you, people, coon asses will eat anything. Be careful when you're down hunting in the river valley." Yes. No, in all fairness, there are a lot of Bigfoot reportings in the Sabine River Valley. No, nobody's eating them, but still, there's a lot of reportings down there. I just thought it was funny when I heard your boy. He was a Bigfooter.
Oh yeah, he is. He's a good dude, man. You should go back and check out that show. Oh, before we go on, this Tuesday night on Into the Night, we are going to have the Vogel brothers, who are part of Boots on the Ground. They're up there in Massachusetts, and they go with Mr. Wojo and Richie B, and they're going to share their stories with us Tuesday night. So please stop on by. So tonight, Joe. Okay, 2 weeks ago, I had 2 weeks ago I had a show on the tarot, and I'm thinking, okay, I need to get somebody on here that knows all about the tarot deck and someone who reads it. And I was just like bumming and going crazy and losing my mind. And then all of a sudden I thought of you, Joe.
Well, that's sweet of you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I actually like that enough. That's sweet of you.
And so Joe graciously said he would come on tonight. And can you give a little background history, Joe, of the tarots and the readings and the decks that you have?
When I first met Linda, this is 43 years ago. Give or take a damn. I hate to even say things like that. Give or take a day or so. She was big into the tarot. And I was like, what the hell is this? Get this voodoo crap, witchy shit out of my house. And I was into other things at the time. So we were sitting there one night, and you can't buy your own tarot deck, people. It's never going to work correctly. It has to be a gift. And it really has to be a gift from someone who actually gives a blank about your reading cards. I'm just being honest with y'all. If you want it to work really well, that's the best way to do it. So she gifted me this deck of cards, and I was reading with this deck. Now, in all fairness, I was reading before that for the Bottom of the Teacup about 8 years before I met her. But I had kind of quit and got into other stuff, and I joined the service and I was in the military, and it's a Navy life. You're bumming around here, bumming around there. You never know where you're going to be half the time. And so I kind of just, put it to the wayside and moved on until I met Linda. And then we started reading, and the readings were getting so accurate, they were getting scary. I mean, scary. So we used to get tired of doing like a Celtic cross or just Egyptian pyramid. There's so many designs of tarot you can do, but for me, they never gave me what I was looking for when I was doing tarot. So we designed a special tarot, and one of these days I'll put it up and let Sean show y'all. But it's designed so that the very beginning of the reading, in the center of the deck, there's going to be 4 cards. Those 4 cards are going to represent like your last maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks of your life, maybe 2 months tops. So if those cards aren't right, there's no reason to even read that deck any further. Pick up the cards and move on your merry way, because those 4 cards are the key. They have to be correct. If for the rest of the reading to fall out the way it should be from what your actions have been, those cards have to be right. Well, they can be up to 3 months, but really and truly, I like to do 2 to 4 to 8 weeks. So if those are correct, then you can read on. And the way that reading is set up, that it will give you it'll give you 3 months in the past, 3 months in the now, and 3 months in the future, and then a final at the top that gives you basically probably next 3 to 5 years. It's a very advanced reading deck. It's not for beginners. It's very advanced layout. It's really not for beginners, but it is a good way to learn how to read. If you really want to get in depth into somebody's life and really want to be able to give them the information that they're looking for from a tarot reader, that's the best way to do it. Now, by saying that, if you're a gifted reader, you could use playing cards. So someone who knows the feel of the cards, knows what the cards represent to themselves, meaning that, so when I read a tarot deck, I always go through the book, any new deck I get. But when I go through the deck myself, I look at this card, whatever it may be, and I think in my head, this is what this card represents to me, this way or that way. And for me, because the card's upside down does not always mean that it's a negative card. There's lots of reasons why a card can be upside down, especially if it's in with another card. It could be a moderation of the first card. So these kind of readings allow you to look in someone's life really deep. The problem with this reading is it is such an accurate reading that it's scary. So we have things seen. A good friend of mine, we're going to a Stevie Nicks concert, 6 of us. We're going to go to the concert. She came by and she said, "Hey, why don't y'all read my card?" So we sat down, we set it up, and we laid it out. We let her cut the deck and we laid it out. And it was a really good reading until one point, and it clearly said she was going to have a miscarriage. Now, she hadn't even told us that she was pregnant yet. And I said, "Well, if you're not pregnant, I guess it's not anytime soon." And she said, "Why?" I said, "Well, it says it's like within this week. It says it's going to be something that happens to you within this week." And she's like, no. And then Michael said, "You just need to tell him." And I looked at, "What do you mean you need to tell us?" And just when she told us she was pregnant. So I was like, "Well, look, the readings are pretty accurate most of the time." I said, why don't you just sell your 2 tickets and stay home? Well, they weren't going to stay home. And if for some reason, right at the last minute, she changed her mind and stayed home. She went into a spontaneous miscarriage about 3 hours after that. And the doctor told her, she said, if you wouldn't have been within an hour of the hospital, you would be dead. She said that's how bad she was bleeding. So if she would have been at the concert, there's no way you got her out in time for her not to have bled to death. It's just somebody said, "Oh, it's sheer luck." No, that's what the card said. And the cards say a lot of things if you're not scared to read them for what they say. They don't always say good things. They don't always say bad things. And sometimes they say boring things. Just everyday walk of the life bullshit. Oh, this is going to happen, or in matters of love, you can see a lot of different things. Also, too, there's one card at the very end that can represent a changing path. I mean, see, once you see the cards, you should be able to effectively change the path if that's what you want to do. It's like a little glimpse into your future. It's a little glimpse into your past where it's just, part of this whole reading, at least 1/3 of this whole reading is to represent your near now and within 6 months past, so that you know that the reader is accurate and you know that what they're telling you about the future is correct. It just helps the person who is getting the reading to really get a good feel of, wow, this is really good. And yes, this is probably is. And then we start hitting on particular events or particular people or particular things that may be going on in their lives, whether it's love, whether it's money, whether it's disease, whatever it is. I read that 4 of my friends would get cancer. I didn't want to say it out loud in the reading because I was, and then one of them I kept hemming and hawing around. She said, so I reached over and told Lyndon, and I reached over and told John, and I said, "I can't tell you. I don't have the heart to tell you." And then she reached over, grabbed me by the shirt and pulled me forward and said, "Is it this?" And I said, "Ask her what I just told her." And of course, that's what it was. But
Oh, wow.
sometimes when it's friends of yours, it's hard. When it's not a friend, if it's just a stranger, it's a lot easier for me to say, okay, this is bad, and this is what's going to happen, and here are some likely ways to get out of it. But sometimes it's not an out. Sometimes you just have to deal with it, and that's the shit that sucks.
Joe Fox has a question for you.
What's up, Joe, brother? How you been?
He goes, "Is that true that they must be gifted?"
If you want to truly read tarot for what it is, tarot should always be given as a gift, like a gift of the heart, a gift of kindness. It should always be given because it empowers the cards.
Now, coming back to we're reading a regular card deck. So when you look at the cards, you're actually, I would call that using a crutch. Would you not?
Well, it is. So the main reason I don't read like I used to be is because I learned somewhere in my late 30s. So what would happen is I'd meet somebody, like say I met Sean, and it may be 5 years, 5 minutes, 5 hours. I never knew when it was going to hit me, but all of a sudden I would get like just 10 years of their life just wash over me. And what I mean, it was freaking accurate. I even did it for some of my kids, and since they're alive and live with us, we actually got to watch it unfold exactly the way I told them it was going to happen. And then a lot of the people we read for in the old days we're still friends with or connected with. So you got to see a lot of this stuff. It's I mean, it's weird. So I mean, but for me, I realized I really didn't need the cards. But you know what? A lot of times it's not so much about us, it's about the person who you're reading for, and they need the cards. They need to see those cards in front of them. And that's why I said when I read cards, those cards to me, because sometimes I'll be reading for somebody and they say, well, Joe, that's not what the card means. I said, but that's what that card means to me. I said, that little piece of paper doesn't mean anything to me. This is what I feel this card means. I said, I'm the reader. I'm the one sourcing the energy to read these cards. The cards, you give the cards power. The cards, I mean, unless you're doing spells and other stuff with your cards, the cards don't necessarily hold the power. You hold the power. But every time you touch them, you're gifting. It's like a Ouija board almost. Right. You're gifting the Ouija board the power. Any other time the power was the Ouija board sitting on the shelf, it's not doing squat, is it? It's sitting in a box, behaving itself. It's not like it jumps off the thing and goes, touch me, please. No, it's not doing that. So it's the same thing. Well, don't argue with people. Go ahead.
So the definitions, the book, of each card, just throw it away.
Wait, no. I always recommend you read it because you may feel so. Like if you're talking about the King of Spades, the King of Hearts, the King of whatever it may be, King of Clubs. You want to read it because clubs generally mean a couple of different things. And for some people, clubs are going to be a more aggressive feel. So some people may read those clubs a little bit more harsher than, say, I would. Or when it comes to hearts, I don't always necessarily equate hearts with love. Sometimes I equate hearts with heart trouble, heart disease, heart problems, things like that. And readers miss that a lot of times because they don't really know how to deal with that kind of
right.
reading.
How about the tarot deck cards?
Now, card decks should fit the personality of the person.
Thank you.
It's okay. So you can cheat and you can surf internets, and I mean, there's millions of card decks out there, and there's some really, really great card decks. And you can find a deck, and because maybe one of your friends wants to buy you a deck, you say, "Hey, this is the one I want." Well, a friend of mine really likes the Daughter of the Moon deck. It's a round deck. It's a really cool deck. Personally, because I studied with Crowley's great-grandson, one of the decks I own is the Aleister Crowley's deck, the one he designed. And then I have the cat card deck. So the cat cards are evil, vicious, no good bastard cards. Whatever it is, whatever could possibly be bad in your life, the cat cards are going to find them.
Cat cards, right? CAT?
Cat cards, yeah, CAT, cat cards. It's a deck. Now, these decks have been used for a lot of things over the years. So there's blood stains on them, wax stains on them, all sorts of other stuff on them. But they've been cast. I mean, people used to come in and ask us to do spells for them way back in the old days. And those cards are now they probably have their own source of power. But the problem with them is they almost always tend to read the bad stuff. So what we would do is we would read when we designed the new reading, we would throw the cat cards first and read the entire thing, what it said. And then we would throw the Crowley deck and we'd read the entire thing because the Crowley deck tended to be lighter. So what we would do is we'd take the two and combine it into one reading. Those readings were so accurate, they scared me.
Mm-hmm.
That was another reason I kind of gave them up for a little while because they actually did scare me a couple of times. I was seeing things that, oh, wait a minute now, I shouldn't even be seeing this. It was just, they were like reaching deep down into people. And there's a couple of times I called people out on some of the stuff I seen. I was like, well, what is this? I mean, this isn't who you represent. See, that was the other problem too, is a card deck can show you a person's inner workings. Not necessarily their complete soul, but at least a piece of it. So you have the ability to touch it with it. So sometimes that can be unnerving depending on the individual. It's you always do protection when you're reading anyway, because you never know. You don't want any of that stuff bouncing back on you, whatever it may be. And you never, ever, ever, ever read your own cards. That's called throwing your destiny, dumbasses. And I mean it just like that, because when you throw your own cards, you're throwing your own destiny. And the bad part is, and this is how stupid humans are. Who they throw? Oh, that's a really good one. Don't throw it again. If you threw it, it was good. Just leave it alone and move on.
Right.
Oh no, they're gonna throw it till they see a bad one. That's just sad.
We did talk about it, and when I was doing my research on the cards, I mean, it says plainly, do not read yourself.
You're
you
not.
know. And while I got a little time here, hey, hello to Banter with Richie B, and hello Cindy Simpson, Joe Fox. Good to see you guys. Continue, sir.
Did you say Bart Simpson was in here with us? What?
No,
because I know Bart Simpson personally.
Uh-huh.
I met him at Writers of the Future. I should say I met her at Writers of the Future.
So, did you ever the people that you had done readings for? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How do they take it? Are they like so in tune with the reading that you can actually see if they're getting a reading from you and they're so in tune, you could say that their name was Paul and it's actually John, and they believe it? Have you ever?
Well, that's
what's scary.
Well, one, if I've been reading for you, you already know who I am, so you know what I'm saying is going to be as the truth as I know it anyway. Anybody who's new, we try when you're doing tarot for new people, you want to help them to understand that it's not always 100%. Sometimes things can go a different way, and since you've actually been told this is part of your upcoming future, you do have the ability to change it. Now, some people do. Some people will see, it's like if you turn left at the light and you go this way, you get in the wreck and get killed. You turn right, you get the lottery ticket and you win $1 billion. It's just that simple. And some people see that little spot where they can turn and go the other way or go around, whatever it is, because some people are actually paying attention to what you said. And those people, anytime they come back for another reading, know right off the bat, well, this is a gifted reading. But you always do get the person who just wants to believe. And those are the hardest ones, because you have to make them understand that it's not always right. And you can't just go in there blindly, because there are people that you could say, oh, this one, that one, this one, and they would just believe it. And they would even give you more money because they're just that desperate to believe. That's not a large percentage, maybe 15% of the group, maybe 20%, but there are out there. I mean, and they hinge on every one of your words, where a lot of people, when you're reading for them, they're sitting there listening, and they're going through their head. First off, like when we're doing the right now stuff and the past stuff, they're sitting there listening to me, and they're going through your head. You can see it. They're just listening and saying, well, yeah, oh yeah, that kind of, and I don't ever ask them to explain it to me or to tell me. I mean, a lot of times they just do because they feel the need to let me know that thing was right. But being that I'm an empath, I don't really need them to tell me. So let's just be honest about it. And a lot of people think too, by the way, for tarot readers that are empaths, that they cheat. and I can't say they all don't. Okay, I'd be lying to you if I said they all don't. Only way I cheat is I'm just looking for the response, the sympathetic, empathic response from the question or the information that was just given. I'm not scanning someone to see how they feel right now or how their recent past was, or even try to access some of their memories so that I can incorporate it into the reading. I do know people who have done that, and that's shitty actually. Because that's not giving an accurate reading. That's just cheating. It's what that is. But there are
Right.
gifted
So what you're
telepaths out there. So
what you're trying to say though is, so if someone goes in for a reading from a reader, and the reader asks a question before the reading even starts, then I pick up your money and go to another reader.
you might be better off. Yeah. I mean, people look. Some people, some empaths may be sympathetic, like somebody you might shake their hand, and they may get a piece from you. So the problem for people like me and other people is it's dangerous because I do see a lot of what I'm going to see before I even get into the cards. I'm already seeing it because, you're in proximity to me and we've made physical contact. But until those cards are down and verifying whatever it is I'm feeling or sensing, it's not really a good time for me to be telling you this information. It's just better to say, hey, I feel like you got energy or this, that, or other thing, something that may help you to look at the cards or to absorb the energy coming from the cards. Because some people come in pumped, psyched, energy all bouncing off them all over the place and stuff. And some of them are empathic and telepathic. So they're picking up on you while you're talking or while you're describing things or going through the cards. Because remember, it's not just about the two cards. So, you get like the Emperor and the Sun. But the Sun's upside down, but the Emperor's upright. What the hell does that mean? Now, you could go to 30 different tarot readers. 15 would read you what it meant from the book. Okay? The rest of us would combine the two cards because that's what you're supposed to be doing. You're not supposed to read the cards separate. You can read them separate, but you're really supposed to combine what the two cards mean since they're laying over each other and touching each other. See, when we read the cards, we always make sure the cards touch each other so they're interacting with each other. That's the reading because that's how cards work. That's how life works. This interacts with this, which creates that. So when you get something like the Emperor that's showing power and strength and wisdom and guidance, and up, down, sun, that means that some things, maybe luck or finances, some other things may be slowed down, or maybe that you yourself is over enthusiastic because of being the Emperor, and that maybe you need the sun's trying to show you that you need to slow down to keep from making mistakes.
Now,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so you got, everybody, and I blame TV and I blame movies that whenever somebody pulls a death card, they're going to die.
No, indeed not. That's not even true.
No, the death card means rebirth. Am I correct?
Yes, it does.
And if it was upside down, that means you're not going to have a rebirth. You're just going to continue staying on the path that you're on, correct?
And depending on what cards are with it, and it can actually mean quite a few things. But in order for a card, for a deck to show death, it takes more than one card, people. And depending on what kind of death, it can be anywhere from 4 to 9 cards to show you. Oh, no, I've read people's death, and I've been right on the money. I hate to say. So this is a curse. Since I was 10 years old, I can see most people's deaths, people around me, up to 2 years, as far as 2 years away. I see my dad's up to about 2.5 years. Like, they drove me crazy because I was 13 when I seen it, and I just made 16 2 days after 2 days before he died. So it like to drove me crazy. But with the cards, I learned as I read, if it was, let's say, like it was a near death, but not a real near death, meaning that this was an individual that may be sick right now, but probably is going to live another 8, 9, 10 years. I could read that pretty easy. Stuff that's up right now is usually a pile of cards of just every bad card you can possibly get in. It's like within 2 or 3 months of each other, they're all stacked together. So like in a 3 set up where there's 6 cards, all 6 of those cards would probably be related to that. Yes. So it's so you can see things like that. But it's not all. It's usually it's rare because most readings, people's deaths are further than the length of the read. Well, the reads most people read for 6 months. I can read. Usually, I'll read you for a year, and that way you have time to change some of the stuff that we've talked about.
Okay. So what would be the the worst card on in the tarot deck? Would it be the Falling Tower,
The tower, the burning towers.
Burning Tower?
Yeah, the burning towers is it's like you get the burning tower and death. That's never two good cards to get. But you know what? Getting the freaking Empress or the Hermit either are not good cards to get. So say if you get the Hermit and the Tower and the Death card, ooh, something nasty bad's happening to you. I mean, it don't always mean it's death, but something nasty bad's about to happen to your ass. You best wake the hell up and pay attention to what's going on. And then there's other cards in the deck besides those that are pretty bad as well, but they're not always. That's the thing. If those cards aren't all together and they're spread out but mixed with other cards, then that necessarily don't mean that's what they mean, because the Hermit card upright along with, say, the Empress card can mean something entirely different.
Okay.
Bringing you from the darkness. Or if it's with the Sun card, it can definitely mean bringing you from the darkness. The Hermit who's in the darkness, the Sun who brightens its light.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Sun can mean a lot of things. The Sun card is a card that is a powerful card. It can mean a lot of things. So remember this, ladies and gentlemen. When tarot started getting read, they read with a deck, a regular 52, spades, clubs, diamonds, hearts. Just a regular card deck. That was it. That's how tarot started. Then people decided to add, 24 more cards, or 76? I think it's 24 more cards. And anyway, they added a lot more cards that had a lot more meanings. So not only did you have to know what every of the 52 original cards meant and how they interacted with each other, you also had to know what these other cards meant. So, and let's not forget, we're just talking about the High Arcadian right now, when the lower also has mixes. So what happens when a heart mixes with a club, or a heart mixes with a pentacle? All these, pentacles usually are bringing has something to do with some type of money, but still, heart and money together. Or what happens if the hearts are upside down and the pentacle's upside right? Money causing heartbreak. I mean, there's lots of things it can mean. See, that's the point. So you, the reader, has to be able to pull this in. You have to feel this. When you look down at that card, you're not reading it based on that book. You're reading it on the way you feel. So it may be from something you read in that book, but you have to take, because a lot of times in the book it'll have like 5, 6, 7 descriptions right behind each other. Bam, 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 bam. One word description. Bam, 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 bam. Well, that's you. You have to interpret that. The book is just to give you a guidance. And the longer you read, the more those individual cards become part of you, the way you read them. And when you teach people to read, you pass that on to them. It's not necessarily they're learning from the book, they're learning from you, which is a different thing. Mm-hmm. Again, whoever sent me that text message just now, do not read your own cards. Well, I know, okay, I understand it's a trust issue. You don't want somebody else to read your cards because you feel like you're giving them power over you, which is not true. But when you read your own cards, you are throwing your own destiny. And you never know what the hell is going to come out them cards when you throw them down. Especially if you're like in an aggravated mood or a pissed off mood or something like that. Those moods reflect the cards. That's why most good tarot readers will clear their mind and their soul before they read for people. So that their baggage isn't coming to those cards with them.
Right.
Yes, because you can easily put it on there. Well, this is stuff that rookies don't even think about. These are, I've been reading cards for a long time, people. 44, 40. If you do the entire span, 40, almost 47 years. I'm not a rookie. When I read your cards, you're going to be like, oh, shit. And before anybody asks, I do not read cards for free unless I've known you for a long, long time. I'm just honest about it. It's because I'm like the guy, you got to give the money to cross over the lake to go to hell. Give me my money.
Listen to you.
Oh,
All right,
man.
folks. I've known Joe for almost 6 years now, and I think I still got to wait 4 more to get a free reading out of that.
Mm.
But listen, Joe,
You
I'm
know,
going to take a little break here, bud, and then we'll get back. Okay?
okay, mysterious people.
Listen to you. All right.
I wish I had my cards and show you.
Well, it's going to be a while break.
News on the flip side. It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. There's an amazing show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. The News on the Flip Side, in the category of politics and news. News on the Flip Side is a much different news and political program, which is not deemed as opinion news. Listen as anchor host Joe Montaldo brings you just the facts from trusted sources, which will allow you, the people, to make up your own minds on the various stories being reported on. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate The News on the Flip Side in the category of news and politics. That's podcastawards.com. Please take a moment and vote now. All right, everybody, it's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcasts. There's a show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in 3 categories: education, storyteller and drama, and arts. For 5 years and with over 280 weekly episodes and 64 million plus downloads, the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast has provided advice and tips from international best-selling authors, world-class artists, contest judges and winners, and industry professionals. It is based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard to help the aspiring writer and artist no matter their age, race, ethnicity, or gender. It is dedicated to the future of storytelling and art by showing that it is never too late to start, and those who make it are those who never give up. We are all busy, but I'd be so grateful if you could take a moment and vote now. Go to podcastawards.com to nominate the Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in any or all 3 of the categories: education, storyteller drama, or art.
Hey, welcome back to the Sunday night edition of Into the Night with me, Sean Kelly. I want to thank you, PRN Talk Radio, 105.3 New Orleans, 107.7 Mississippi, for allowing me to spend an hour with me on Sundays and Tuesday nights. I'm on Tuesday nights, same show, 8:10 to 9:10. This Tuesday coming up, I'm going to have the Vogel Brothers. They are along with Richie B and Mr. Wojo there. They belong to their group, Boots on the Ground Bigfoot Investigators. They're out of Massachusetts, and they're going to share their stories with us on Tuesday night. I also want to thank Carnation for sponsoring my show tonight. So, to catch up, everybody, we're talking about tarot, okay? And my guest, Joe Montaldo, he is my boss on UPR. This is his platform, and he reads cards. He's been reading cards for over 40 years. So he was just, sharing his intelligence about the cards. And so that's the update. Joe, question. Whenever... did you ever do psychic fairs?
I was asked a lot, but really and truly, so it was weird for me. So reading downtown for a while. You know what I always wanted to do that I've never done is read in front of Jackson Square at midnight. They go out there. So in front of St. Louis Cathedral, actually. So they allowed them to, from midnight, from like 11 p.m. to like 4 a.m., they allowed them to read cards in front of this 300-year-old cathedral. I would love, I've never had done it. But no, I always got asked, but I always ended up getting sucked in to speak about something else.
Hmm.
So it was always weird for me. And then people knew, if they knew me, they locally, they knew they could just give me a call. And then this thing called the internet broke out, and allowed for a whole new type of online kind of thing. Now, this is, we're talking, it was way different back then, people. So we would actually have to type in the card. There wasn't video internet until, I don't know, it's not even that long, 15 years maybe. And we've been reading online for a lot longer than that. But it opened up a lot of doors nowadays. I mean, we're thinking about, I was just talking about this the other day with somebody. We were talking about setting up a new TikTok reader thing for a couple of us, myself and a couple other readers, to read off of. And before anybody asks, no, it won't be free. So don't even bother asking that question. But it won't be one of those where, oh, you pay for like 3 or 5 minutes. It'll actually be for actual physical reading. So look at it this way, ladies and gentlemen. When I'm working, I make a lot of money per hour. Okay, just so you know that ahead of time. So if I'm going to stop and actually do a real reading for somebody and spend an hour or 2 hours with them, I expect to be paid for it, and so do any other hosts that are reading like that. Now, if you want one of the readings where they do like a general reading over the like a group of people and everybody's paying $5 and it's like raining bullshit on top of your head. Y'all ever see that little kid on TikTok that goes bullshit, bullshit, bullshit? That's exactly what that is. That's exactly what that is. Get a reading, get a personal reading, and you don't have to, and don't go around, you don't. Another thing people like to do is shop readings. That's a bad thing to do, because then you don't know what's real. Then you try combining this reading with that reading and that reading with this reading. No, because you can't correct things when you do it like that. If you know a person is a good reader and their readings have been good for you in the past and the information they're giving to you is solid, don't go shop readings. One, you're just wasting your money, and two, you're confusing your own psyche. I mean, it just becomes your brain. It just becomes mush. It
I
doesn't matter who
remember.
you read, as long as they're good.
I remember. I did a reading. I used to work at psychic fairs, and this one
Yes,
lady I
they were
remember.
fun. I wish I could work at one.
There, there's a lot of animosity between the readers. I'll just say
No,
that.
that sucks.
But this one lady came in, and she went to every reader that was reading that day. There was like 8 of them, and she asked the same questions, but I guess she never got her answer because she kept asking the same questions to every reader. It's
Mm.
like it was like she wanted to know if the answer that she was thinking that other people.
Yeah, and
I
I can
mean,
see that. That's a way of surfing. That's surfing for what you want to find.
but see, I used to work for the psychic hotlines, right? And I remember one time I was working and I talked to a lady. She was from Louisiana, dude,
Oh
and
shit.
and I spent an hour with her on the phone. I am not going to tell you how much she spent on that 1 hour reading,
I can imagine.
but so we hung up. I did my hour. Calls back 15 minutes later, wanted me to give her another reading. Now I know how much his company took off her, right,
Yeah.
for that hour. And I just simply told her, I can't do this. I cannot give you another reading. I just gave you another reading. But she says, I want another one. It got down to the point where I actually hung up on her. Okay. And I thought about it for 5 or 10 minutes. And I'm thinking, no, this ain't right. Um, so I called the company, the car reading company. It was one of them big ones, too. And I just said to them on the phone, listen, I quit. I said, you know, you know, God, my higher power, gave me this gift to help people, and I'm not helping the people. I'm just taking a ton of money off of them, and so I quit. You know, what do you feel of those? And I know it's a business.
Oh,
And I know,
I fought with a lot of them over the years. I've got into it with them. What bothered me, to me, it was the same as 1-800 Pretty Girl or some shit like that. When I would go argue at conferences when I was lecturing, I'd actually bring that up. I said, well, it's no worse than going to 1-900 number, guys. I said, you're spending the same amount of money. They're like, what? I said, oh, yeah, that reading's costing you as much as sex with that person would cost you. It's ridiculous. And I used to bitch about them all the time. And I was actually in Gettysburg doing a lecture. Gettysburg, however you fucking pronounce it. Excuse my language.
Geddes.
Yeah. And I was down there. No, Mark, I'm not talking about where the war was. There's another town up there. For some reason, where is it? It's like right outside of D.C. or something.
What, Gettysburg?
No, not Gettysburg. It's the other one. They do a lot of conferences there.
Okay.
It's got almost the same name, but it's like Gettysburg instead of Gettysburg.
Gatlin?
But it's right there. It's right there by DC because I've gone there a couple times and done lectures. So, and as a matter of fact, that's where the first 2 X conferences I have attended were. And but they got a tram that runs right in from DC from right where it's at.
Okay.
Gettysburg. I know I'm butchering the name, but you know, and we were lecturing to pretty big crowds, and this guy's and he comes in, he's recruiting people for his 1-800 tarot cards, and he comes by and said, I heard you're a pretty good reader. I said, you can't afford me. And he looked at me. I said, you can't afford me, dude. I said, if I tell you what I want, I said, you really want me to tell you what I want? He said, yeah. I told him. He said, you're right, I can't afford you. I said, okay then. He said, well, you're that good? I said, yeah. He said, well, would you read my cards? And I told him how much it would cost him. He said, but you wouldn't charge these people that much. I said, because they can't afford it. You can. He's like, I ain't gonna tell you how much I charge you. You wouldn't believe me anyway. So it was ridiculous. Because he wanted to see, because I already kept telling him I was a good reader. Yeah, I read his cards and he came back and he said, wow, it's so nice to actually meet someone who actually really reads cards. Because he said recruiting for him, 95% of the people he recruited had no skill whatsoever. Everybody, all 250 readers he had working for him at the time, and he was trying to bump it up to 500. Not one of them got anything right about his life until he met me, and I didn't work for him. So
then why in the hell did he see?
He's after the money, man. So he was paying these people. He changed his way. In the beginning, he was paying like per hour, and then he decided to give him a commission, like 30% or 40%, which made so when you were getting paid by the hour, you're getting $10-20 an hour. It's one thing. When they say you're doing a call that's worth $500, they're saying we're going to give you 40%. You're going to try to keep that person on that line longer, because the longer that person's on that line, the more money you're making. So it was a real change. And then the people who are reading were making way bigger money. Some of the people were taking $2,000-$3,000 a week, and we're talking in the 90s, which is like $7-10 grand these days. It was just sad. And that's all he was in it for, was the money. He was quite honest with me. We talked about it for quite some time. And he wasn't the only one. I mean, he told me pretty much everybody he knew in the industry was in it for the same thing. They were just in it for the money. It was just a money scheme for them to make money. And actually his partner, his other half actually, said she didn't believe any of it was real.
Okay.
And maybe because they never got anybody who could read their cards right. So I walked up behind her and I said something to her about something that happened to her 2 days earlier. And then I told her something that's going to happen in 2 days. And she flipped out. And when I told her what had happened to her a couple days later, she said, oh, my old man told you. I said, ask him. And he's like, I hadn't even talked to him about you. He didn't even know you were my old lady, because he hadn't introduced me yet.
Right.
And she was like, how did you know? I said, I just knew. It's just one of them things.
And it's and I believe, Joe, that spirit or whoever you believe in just gives you that gift. I believe
it is a gift. It's a gift. It's a gift from whatever it is that created this universe, whatever you want to believe in. People, look, I don't hate on people, because whatever God you want to believe in, I tell people, whatever makes you feel as snug as a bug in the rug, that's what you should believe. Your God, his God, her God, his God. I don't know, and I won't know until I cross over. So I'm not making any judgment calls.
That's the way I look at
about
it.
Anything. It's like when I finally heard a Pope say, "Oh, they were asking him about gay people," and he said, "You know what? That's not my call. That's God's." I was like, wow, somebody actually said something right. No, people, it's not my job to tell you who. Yeah, I can
Well,
read your tarot, and sometimes, and I was told by two different preachers that I was going to burn in hell for reading tarot cards
yeah, me too.
because I was doing the devil's work. So I sat one of them down one day. He was very gifted, and I said, let me, and I told him something about his life. He said, see, you're the devil. You're Dustin. No, no, no. I said, think about what I just told you. I said, think of what I'm telling you now. I said, if you actually listen and do what I said, your life will be much better. And I said, wouldn't that be more like God was trying to help other people out? I said, Satan wouldn't do that. I said, tarot readers aren't there to get you. Tarot readers are there to help you. And they're not there to, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's always the scammers out there and, the table wrappers and the teacup readers. And I'm not saying it's not real people. Well, some of it isn't, but still. But it is. I mean, we're not trying to fraud anybody. I could care, and this is the truth, people. I could care less about red cards for anybody ever again, except for the people that are close to me. It's unless they just want it run. I mean, I'm not going to get rich off of it. That's for sure. And I don't really get anything out of it than the sensation and gratification that I may have actually helped somebody.
Mm-hmm. Well, dude, it's about that time to go.
Who's up next?
Yeah,
Who is up next? Wait, who's up next? What show's on next? I don't know.
I don't know either. Oh, wait, Sean. It's Sean's.
Oh, it's Sean. Oh, we need to raid Sean's show.
Through the Night Darkly, yeah. Sean Patrick Castle. He's a co-host along with me on Joe Show Friday night.
Oh, yes, on News, which, by the way, is up for awards. People, go vote.
Please
Sean says he wants to see this damn trophy.
I want to see it.
And I think they let us buy copies of it.
You got to tell that lady, okay? You got to tell that lady who did your commercial to add all of us on there.
You know what? When I see John, I'm gonna ask if he'll get her to do it, just to edit it. And
that would be.
I will see him. But it's early in the week, isn't it? Oh, it's late into the week, early in the week. Okay, I'm getting confused where we are. For some reason, I was thinking I was getting ready to go talk about who quitting and stuff, but we can't mention his name. That's like Baltimore. Okay, you ever heard of Baltimore? That's who we're talking about.
All right. Joe, thank you again for being on tonight. If you can hang around, I'd like to chat with you just a little bit, but I got to close this down or our boss is going to get upset. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for stopping in, Joe. Thank you again. I hope everybody learned a little bit from Joe about tarot reading. Don't forget this Tuesday, 8:10 to 9:10, the Vogel brothers will be on my show Into the Night. They are part of Boots on the Ground, Bigfoot investigation team. That's Richie B's and Mr. Wojo's. And they're going to share their stories and experiences. Children, if you can, please go to your parents, give them a hug and tell them that you love them. Parents, please go to your children, give them a hug and tell them that you love them. If you don't have no parents or no children, please find somebody, give them a hug and tell them that you love them, because those 3 words, I love you, go a long way. And on that note, good night, everybody, and we'll see you Tuesday night.